xXx, The Return of Xander Cage, stars Vin Diesel, Ruby Rose, Donnie Yen, Toni Collette, Samuel Jackson, Rory McCann, and a bunch of other people I can't remember. It's also currently the best movie of 2017, which to be fair isn't saying much because I've only seen 3 releases from 2017, and one of them was The Bye Bye Man, so go figure. If you can't tell from the smile on my face right now, I am extremely amused that a third xXx film even exists, considering the last one came out in 2005 when Ice Cube took over the reins from Vin Diesel. Now that the Fast and the Furious franchise is this billion-dollar enterprise, I guess someone figured, why not try and restart xXx? You know what? I think they might actually be onto something. First and foremost, this is probably one of the most unpretentious films I've ever seen. It doesn't for 1 second try and pretend that it's well written or even really coherent, but it does deliver a shitload of fun, and that's what matters. The plot is incredibly simple. A terrorist is using this technological trinket called the Pandora's Box, and he's using it to crash satellites out of the sky, using them as missiles basically to target people. So they find Vin Diesel's xXx. He's been in exile for ages, and now they're going to make him take this guy down. This is one of those movies where you really don't need to pay attention to the plot, like, at all. It is a total afterthought and is really just a means to an end to get to the action sequences. This wasn't unexpected in the slightest, but what did surprise me a little bit about xXx 3 is the subtly different tone. This is actually a lot sillier and goofier than the last 2 xXx films, especially when it comes to the humour. It pretty much gets into camp territory at some points. But I think people will be okay with this, considering that the film is clearly targeting the audience who love the Fast and the Furious movies. The opening scene of this film features Samuel Jackson and the footballer Neymar having an incredibly weird conversation, and it's honestly one of the most surreal things I've seen in a film in a long, long time. This is a gloriously stupid movie, and it absolutely knows it and has a ton of fun with it. It's just got insane action sequences, absurd dialogue, and the cast also look like they're having a ton of fun, which really helps. There also isn't a single bad performance here, which is incredibly surprising and not really what you expect from a film like this. Vin Diesel is basically just doing his Vin Diesel thing, and that's absolutely fine. Toni Collette chews up the scenery as the stuffed shirt spook in charge of him. Donnie Yen gets a ton of screen time as an ass-kicking martial artist. Ruby Rose is a wisecracking sharpshooter with a hilarious introduction scene. Rory McCann, who you may remember as the Hound from Game of Thrones, plays basically a deranged brute character, and he gets a few fun scenes as well. And of course, Samuel Jackson does his very big Samuel Jackson acting as the returning Agent Gibbons. There were 2 performances I wasn't sure about at first, but I certainly wouldn't call them bad. Firstly, that's Tony Jaa, who is an incredible martial artist and doesn't get anywhere near enough screen time here, but he does do some really fun, like, dancing, screaming comedy stuff, which is fine. And then there's Nina Dobrev, who plays like the sexy, geeky tech support, and she's basically a Xander Cage fanboy. She flirts with him pretty much every second she's on the screen. She's easily the goofiest character in the entire movie, and so awkward that it almost feels out of place sometimes. The action sequences are basically what you would expect and hope for. DJ Caruso may be a hit and miss director, but he does a solid, crisp job with the action here. It's visually coherent and well edited for the most part, although some of the sequences are a little bit shorter than I would have liked, and there is a quite lengthy section in the middle of the film where there isn't really any action, which is quite disappointing. Still, the action basically ends up at cartoonish levels by the third act, so as long as you're prepared to accept that, which watching this film you absolutely should, you'll probably have a lot of fun with it. I think it goes without saying that films like this are always a lot more fun if you've sunk a few beers or had a few tokes first. I did one of those things, and yeah, I had a blast. I think this is a great film to watch with your buddies at a weekend when you just want to see some cool explosions, hilarious one-liners, and probably, you know, ogle some beautiful women as well, because there's tons of them in this movie too. There's also a very unexpected surprise for fans of the series here, which seems to be trying to set up the next movie, and it seems like they're going to try and go in a Mission Impossible-esque direction where it's kind of a squad-based dynamic. And considering what they've set up here, like a bunch of entertaining characters, I'm totally on board with that, as long as the film makes its money that it needs to. Look, this film won't be winning any awards, and I don't think it would have it any other way either. And you have to kind of balance its quality as a piece of filmmaking with how entertaining it is. And for that, I will give it a solid 6 out of 10. I'm intrigued to see if this restarts the XXX franchise or not. If you enjoy dumb action movies that have that little added ingredient of self-awareness that takes them to the next level, then I think you will get a kick out of this. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please do like and subscribe. Thank you again, and I'll be here from Dusk Till Shaun.